At this point in the Obama presidency, it's clear that the president's economic solutions, well, they're not going to bring an immediate turnaround. So can we all call Obamonomics a failure, or do we have to play wait and see? Now, here to discuss these issues are Sandra Smith from the Fox Business Network and Dani Babb, founder of the Babb Group and the author of The Accidental Landlord. Are people's expectations that Obamonomics, is that unfair? Because I don't see structurally how it can succeed.
The market's going to rebound no matter what. The Democrats are setting this up so that it's going to look good for them regardless. That's a political position. But the market and the people that drive it are going to be successful. And Obamonomics are creating the Bank of Obama, which is unfortunately killing particular sectors of the banking industry.
At this point, Sean, it's not about if we're in a recovery or if we're starting to recover. It's not about that at all, because basically what happened here is the Democrats have pumped a lot of money into the system through stimulus in order to stave off a complete failure, a complete collapse. We're seeing that. The markets have somewhat stabilized. Some consumer confidence has come back into the markets. But the real question here is if we're going to return to an efficient mode of business. Have we learned from our mistakes? Are we going to make the correct changes to our overall structure?
But George Soros is bragging about, well, he's doing great in the economic slowdown. Isn't that great for everybody to hear George Soros? But he's claiming the banks are insolvent. People that I have talked to in the banking industry are all telling me, Sean, get ready. The next wave of the, subprime crisis has yet to hit. So if we're going to, is that true? Do you agree round two is coming?
Well, guess what's now happened? These stress tests that are being administered on the banks, the big banks are going to be reporting earnings at the end of this month. Now, the results of those stress tests are being postponed, and it makes you wonder why? How bad is it? What don't they want to reveal right now at the same time as earnings? Or
maybe even the opposite. Maybe it's not as bad as we think. And, there's two issues here. I do think that we potentially could see another round of issues, but it's going to be in the jumbo market and not in the conventional market where Fannie and Freddie are buying up all these loans from the banks. The banks have no reason not to do a loan today. But banks can borrow at 0% and lend it whatever they want in today's market. How does that lead to insolvency?
Well, this is what Soros is saying. But I think ultimately what they're trying to do here is set the stage for the nationalizing of banks. You agree?
I completely agree.
So if they're doing that, what does that mean to the average consumer? What does it mean to the economy as a whole? We have tax cheat Tim Geithner, repeatedly saying that he may replace, at his discretion, CEOs. They want the right. They even want the right to take over firms, even if they're not receiving any government funds.
What makes Doogie Howser more qualified to select a CEO? I have no clue. But it is going to result in higher interest rates, making it more difficult to get credit and less money out there. We already know that the interest, the desire to buy up assets has dropped 64% in 1 month. That was released this week. How much? I mean, it can't get much worse than that.
Right now, what the government needs to do is level the playing field. The government's trying to get too involved with the big banks right now. What we need is a referee. We need them to step in and say, to try to push the rules right now. They're saying too much. The big banks need to put the rules into place. The government needs to be there to set the rules. Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO of Goldman Sachs today, saying that this is a result of a systematic lack of skepticism out there. We need more skepticism out there in the markets. That's the only way this whole thing's going to solve.
I'm not an economist, but here's my take on the economy. Is that I think this was caused by the government and their belief that every American should own a home, whether they can afford it or not. And they pressured these banks to make these loans, knowing full well that people wouldn't be able to pay it back. I think so structurally and foundation-wise, we had set the stage for this. I think similarly, financially, by spending all this money and socializing the country and tripling the debt, we're going to have some short-term economic stimulus. I think CBO is right. But long term, we can't sustain it. A socialist America. This is socialism. So
absolutely, we're spending 10 cents of every dollar that's earned in income tax just on the interest on this new debt alone. It's not sustainable. Absolutely.
Put programs into place to help the unemployed. Put programs in place to help the homeowners. But let's also take advantage of our cheap labor force right now and work on some infrastructure in this country. We're not making all the right decisions right now to set us on the road for recovery.
But there's a problem. Look at New York City, for example. It was recently revealed that in a city of 9 million people, ladies and gentlemen, 9 million. 42,242 of them pay 50% of New York City's, income tax bill. Rush Limbaugh said he's leaving, and Governor Patterson said, if that's all it took, I would have done this years ago. Donald Trump is suggesting he would consider leaving, and he knows rich people that are leaving. Are taxes now getting so high that people are going to actively seek cities and states and municipalities where they're not going to have to pay.
And it's happening across the board. You're just talking about income taxes. We've also got a government now telling us that they might put a cap on executive compensation. The same sort of thing's going to happen. We're going to lose some of the brightest, best people because we're not willing to pay them.
And I know business owners in California leaving, taking their business to Nevada. California's losing residents. That's the last thing that they can afford right now. And that's going to happen
10% unemployment rate,
nationwide.
but that's what they did. They had a 40% increase in spending out there. And the same thing. New York is, without even the impact of the Wall Street fallout, they're increasing spending 9%. It's madness.
And crazy income taxes.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
so much to say. We're trying to artificially support the banks, the housing market. We need to let it all work itself out.
Just get out of the private market and let them do their thing.
Guys,
that's capitalism.
Oh, capitalism?
I know.
No, this is the United States of the arrogant France, because the president says we're arrogant and we're becoming like France. All right. Thank you, guys. And Hannity's America is up next, plus our Great American Panel and